I'm Walter Hang, and I'm the president of Toxics Targeting. We're an environmental database firm, and it's my honor to introduce Mayor Ryan, City of Binghamton, and Dr. Benjamin Purkis of New York Residents Against Drilling. We are announcing today that we have written a letter to Governor Cuomo requesting that State Health Commissioner Nirav R. Shah immediately undertake a, quote, public health impact study, close quote, of high volume hydraulic fracturing in order to fulfill sweeping requirements that were actually announced by the Cuomo administration on September 20th, 2012. And until that study is completed, our letter requests that New York State's shale gas extraction moratorium remain fully in effect. And this letter has been signed by the signatories to an earlier letter that was sent to the governor's top 1,000 campaign contributors. So it's myself, Mayor Ryan, Dr. Purkis, Sue Rapp of Vestal Residents for Safe Energy, and Aaron Heaton of Shenango Community Action for Renewable Energy. And so what we basically discovered, much to our chagrin, is that the Cuomo administration made very, very important promises for its health review that was announced last September. But those promises were never fulfilled by a review conducted totally in secret without any public impact whatsoever. And that's how come we're calling upon the governor to fulfill his administration's promise to, one, address, quote, any legitimate requests for additional due diligence and data, close quote. Ensure that, quote, DEC's ultimate decision on hydraulic fracturing is beyond reproach, either as a matter of law or as policy, close quote. Allow DEC to avail, quote, ourselves of the best possible advice from the private and academic sectors, and most importantly, undertake an investigation that would, quote, result in the most thorough review of high volume hydraulic fracturing in the nation, close quote. That has not been done by the review. That's only involved 25 hours of work by the 3 outside experts. There's been so much confusion about this fiasco that our letter just basically says to the governor, do a public health impact study, address all of these public health concerns once and for all, and until that is done, don't adopt the final review, don't lift the moratorium, fulfill your promise to make sure that these issues are going to be decided based on science. And believe it or not, that has never been plainly put to the governor up until today. So the message is very clear. Do a study, take responsibility for fulfilling the promises that were made, and then we'll see how things unfold. Mayor Ryan.
It's indeed troublesome that we're still here asking for what should be paramount in this whole debate is a public health assessment, a public health impact study that will really make people feel like something has been done that will really address the issues that have come up in so many other states that are really well down the road in this drilling, high volume hydraulic fracturing drilling process. We want to make sure as elected officials that our environment and our water is safe and the public health impacts are addressed. It really has been almost an afterthought, and that's why we're where we are, that the public health impacts came up late in the process, and it was like, oh yeah, we have to do something about this. And they really have never done what was promised. The letter is very clear what was promised, the best study in the whole nation. We're not even close to that. All they did was review a fatally flawed document that already existed and that's not enough. We have to make sure that we start from the very basics of this industry, study it, make sure we have enough data from the health impacts and the public health impact of this industry, and that simply has never been done. And we're only asking the governor to keep the promises that were made back last September, make sure that before we go forward with one drill bit in New York State, that we make sure that the public health concerns have been addressed in a comprehensive form, and that has not happened. And we're asking the governor just to look at the promises that you've made. You said it would be based on science. You said it would be based on the best available information. Well, it hasn't. That simply has never happened, and we're not going to forget about that. There's, many people across the state now, a majority who want to make sure, who have been polled, who said they want to make sure that the health impacts are first assessed, and that's why we're here today. Urging the governor and urging the commissioner and urging Dr. Shaw to do what they've promised to do and get on with it, so we can have the information that's necessary to make a proper assessment of this industry.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Benjamin Perkis. I'm a member of the board of New York Residents Against Drilling. I'm also a member of the Concerned Citizens of the Town of Shenango. I am a signatory to the letter which requests that Governor Cuomo immediately fulfill his administration's own shale gas fracking policy mandates by undertaking a comprehensive public health impact study that will provide, in the words of DEC Commissioner Martens, quote, the most thorough review possible, especially when it comes to public health concerns. I and thousands of residents of the Southern Tier can have no confidence whatsoever about the integrity of the Cuomo administration's decision-making process unless this critical study is undertaken with formal public participation. I call upon the governor to keep his word without further delay. The governor has often said that hydraulic fracturing is, quote, too important to make a mistake, and that his final decision must be based on science, not emotion. It is imperative for him to resolve the public's legitimate health hazard concerns by undertaking the public health impact study requested in our letter today. Thank you.
If you have any questions, we'll try to answer them.
So this health study would be totally separate from the Geisinger health study that's being done in PA?
Absolutely. So Commissioner Martens made it very clear that assessing the public health impact of shale gas fracking is a state responsibility. And so these other studies aren't going to be completed for 3 years. They all have all kinds of fatal flaws, mainly because they don't determine what's the full spectrum of pollutants associated with fracking, what's the environmental fate of these pollutants, who's exposed, and what are the potential outcomes. So we're basically saying New York State has to do its own study. They can look at what these other studies are doing, they can check the scientific literature, but the bottom line is we got to stop all this uncertainty, all this dithering, all this like what's going on, and just announce the state is going to fulfill Commissioner Martens' promise to do the most comprehensive review anywhere in the nation. We want formal public comment, we want a proposal, and then we basically want all of this to happen without further delay.
And this would be in addition to the study that Nirav Shah is currently doing?
This is the key point. Dr. Shaw is not doing a study. There has been enormous confusion about this since last September, and that's one of the main reasons we're here. So last September, Commissioner Martens said that he had met with all these environmentalists and other interested parties who were very unhappy about the health impact analysis that had been conducted. So he announced then a review, and he then made all these promises to conduct this really rigorous analysis. The problem was there was never any public notice, there was never any public opportunity for review or comment. We had no idea what was going on until January when Dr. Shaw testified in Albany before the legislature that in fact there was no study. He was simply reviewing the existing draft SGICE, which had received scathing criticism from, among other entities, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. So that review is totally inadequate, it's totally not sufficient, and that's how come our letter makes it clear. Put that review on hold until New York State does its own public health impact study. And that has to require formal public participation. So we can see written down on an actual piece of paper, what is it that they're going to do? How is it going to be done? Who's going to be involved? And we think that this is the only way that these concerns about public health protection are going to be fully resolved. Otherwise, you basically have an ongoing fiasco where the public doesn't know what's going on, there's nothing written down, and we just can't tolerate that. This is the most important environmental and public health policy decision in a generation. And this is simply, absolutely essential to make sure that any decision about permitting fracking is going to be done properly.